Hey everyone, Stephen Hack here with Career Watch, where I help you with your career search. In today's video, we're comparing two very popular occupations should you become a plumber or an electrician in 2021. Both these are great occupations and one isn't necessarily better than the other. In this video, we have 4 factors for you to consider when choosing between these two occupations. And these 4 factors go beyond dealing with a fear of being electrocuted in a grandmother's basement or dealing with an absurd amount of raw sewage. Also, a great thing about both these occupations is they both don't require a bachelor's degree. Both are skills based and a high school diploma is more than enough before trying to become licensed. So factor number 1 is this: plumbers and electricians make very similar amounts of money on the national level. In 2019, the average base salary for an electrician was $60,370, whereas the average base salary of a plumber was $59,800. So in 2019, electricians only out-earned plumbers by $570 nationally. And these are base salaries. Both of these occupations tend to have the ability to work overtime and the ability to own their own business, which we'll get into later in the video. Both of these occupations out-earn HVAC mechanics and solar panel installers. They are out-earned by aircraft mechanics and elevator and escalator repairs. And there are cons with those two occupations as well, which we'll get into a little bit later in the video as well. So not only do employed plumbers and electricians make a very similar amount of money in 2019, they've made a similar amount of money for a long time. And sometimes they switched places. From 2009 to 2012, electricians made more than plumbers nationally. But then in 2013 and 2014, plumbers tended to earn a little bit more. But then from 2015 to 2019, electricians once again earned a little bit more. They're both seeing an average yearly wage growth of around $900 per year. So in 2019, there was a $570 difference. Plumbers and electricians are forecasted to keep making around the same amount of money over the next 10 years. In 2029, they're probably both going to earn around $69,000 per year using that average yearly wage growth. The differences in wages between electricians and plumbers don't really show up until you go down to the state level. There are certain states that tend to pay plumbers more, and there's certain states that tend to pay electricians more as a base salary. For example, in the state of Illinois, plumbers tend to out-earn electricians by about $7,000 per year as a base salary. Meanwhile, in the state of California, electricians tend to make more by about $6,000 per year. But overall, nationally, plumbers and electricians make a very similar amount of money. Factor number 2, the job market is currently better for electricians than plumbers. First off, the electrician workforce is much larger than the plumbing workforce. In 2019, there was around 688,000 employed electricians and 443,000 employed plumbers. Both of these occupations have far larger workforces than aircraft mechanics, elevator and escalator repairs, HVAC mechanics, and solar panel installers. And that's one of the big advantages of becoming an electrician or a plumber. There are job opportunities in every nook and cranny across the country. Both plumbers and electricians suffered during the Great Recession, losing tens of thousands of jobs across the country. But both bounced back, but electricians saw a little bit more job growth than plumbers. From 2008 to 2019, electricians saw over 50,000 more jobs, whereas plumbers saw just a couple thousand more jobs during this time period. Also, the government is forecasting an 8% growth in the number of electrician jobs from 2019 to 2029, whereas they're anticipating a 4% growth in plumbers from 2019 to 2029. So there could be greater job growth for electricians than plumbers going into the future. We can also look at the number of job postings across the country. I usually use Indeed.com. Indeed is an extremely popular job search engine, and it brings in job postings from many different sources. When I searched for plumber and electrician job titles, I found the following. When I searched for plumbing job titles, I came out with about 7,080 job postings for plumbers across the country. When I searched for job postings with electrician and wireman in the title, it came out with 12,568 job postings across the country. So I found that there's currently more job postings for electricians than plumbers across the country. And also, when you compare the number of job postings against the number of employed, it still favors electricians. With plumbers, there's 60 times as many employed as job postings, whereas with electricians, there's 54 times as many employed as job postings. So that's factor number 2. The job market is a little bit better for electricians than plumbers in 2021. Factor number 3 is entrepreneurship might actually be better for plumbers. Both electricians and plumbers have the opportunity to own their own business, and many do. In 2019, the government found that about 5% of electricians were self-employed, whereas around 8% of plumbers were self-employed. And this is one of the cons with one of the similar occupations, elevator and escalator repairs. There are more self-employed electricians and plumbers than there are self-employed elevator and escalator repairs and HVAC mechanics. Given that there's a greater number of self-employed plumbers, even though the job market might be better for electricians, it might be easier to start a plumbing business than electrician business. Finally, we get to factor number 4, and this depends on your interests. If you haven't taken a RIASEC assessment and figured out your Holland codes, definitely do. You can compare your Holland codes with people in different occupations. And this is basically an interest inventory. You exhibit interest in different things, and it shows you your scores in 6 different themes. Both plumbers and electricians score really, really high and realistic, basically the highest score possible, 100. But after that, things get interesting. Electricians tend to score a little bit higher in the investigative theme, whereas plumbers score a little bit higher in the conventional theme. The differences are very slight, but this does kind of indicate that electricians are a little bit more curious and plumbers are a little bit more orderly. So those are 4 factors to consider when you're trying to choose between becoming a plumber or an electrician in 2021. What do you think about these 4 factors? Leave a comment down below. Can't go wrong with either of these occupations. Just make sure you really enjoy working with your hands. And one thing I didn't go into this video very much is the overtime availability for plumbers and electricians. Both in many circumstances can work overtime and get time and a half or even double time, depending on the contract at which they are working. And this can greatly increase the income potential of plumbers and electricians. Anyways, those are the 4 factors. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.